Another time. Siku njema ambayo Mungu ametujalia kuwa hapa, na tunamshukuru kwa maana si kwa nguvu zetu ambayo imetuwezesha kufika hapa siku ya leo, ni kwa neema tumefikisha hapa. And he said we should rejoice in the day that he has granted us. So he said we should rejoice, na tunafaa kuwa na furaha ndani yake, ndani ya siku ambayo ametupa na ametuwezesha kuwa hapa. Ni siku ya furaha, si siku ya kununa kile ambacho kilikuwa kinakusumbua. This is not the place to allow it to distract your thoughts. Hapa ni mahali pa kumwabudu. Tunafaa kumshukuru kila wakati ambayo ametuwezesha kuwa mbele yake. So today we are going to share the word of God from the book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel chapter 17. 1 Samuel chapter 17. David and Goliath. 1 Samuel chapter 17. So when you read it in this story, it is a story about David overcoming this Philistine giant. And when you read about it through the chapter, it is not just a story about a shepherd boy and this giant Philistine. It is a story about a faith in the face of fear. And the topic of this message is overcoming through faith. Because we find here David standing in a battlefield which he was not even prepared for. And he stood there when every soldier stood there trembling before that giant. And he chose to face what everyone was avoiding. He did not do that by his might, he did not do that by his strength. He faced Goliath because he had some confidence that came from God. There was a difference between David and the army of Israel. And the difference was not about the size or the experience. The difference was the confidence that David had in his God. Because he had much confidence. Remember, David was not even here. He did not come here to fight. He was just sent here by his father to check up on his brothers. And when he found this Philistine talking bad about Israelites, insulting them, he was not happy about that. Remember, David was already anointed a king, but he was not announced. He had that kingship in him, and that's why he was not happy about this. This Philistine was talking, insulting the people that belong to God. Remember, Israel was a clan that was chosen by God himself. And David understood these were his people. That was in him. And that's why he took that step to fight for his people. And he took that step to fight Goliath, not because the army was not enough, but because he understood one thing. This army was fighting this battle by a sword, but he understood that this fight was not to be fought by natural weapons. It was like a spiritual battle. It was not to be fought using the swords and the armor that they had. He was prepared for that. That's why he went to Saul in verse 32. David said to Saul, "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him." He took that step in faith to fight for his people. He did not ask for permission from Saul. He informed him that I'm going to fight, because he understood the fight in front of him, even when he was not prepared. But he was prepared in another way. He was prepared spiritually. God had already prepared him to face this Goliath. When he was in the field, taking care of his father's flock, God had already prepared him there. When no man was present, no man was there to know that he was prepared. When God delivers the bears and lions into his hands, it was the work of God, preparing him for the battle ahead of him. So, in verse 33, Saul replied, "You are not able to go out against this Philistine and fight him. You are only a young man, and he has been a warrior from his youth." When Saul looked at David, he saw a young man, a young, inexperienced man. But David was experienced, not in a way that they knew. He was experienced because God had already given him the skill to fight this battle. When they looked in him, David was standing in that battlefield with no one to encourage him. Saul saw him like a young man. His brothers was even against him being in there, not even in the battlefield. Everyone was against it. But he took that courage. That courage was not coming from himself. That was a divine courage from God himself. Because he understood that this battle was prepared for. He knew where he was coming from. He knew where this courage, the strength, where he was drawing it from. And he understood that this giant, which everyone looked like a giant in front of them, David not view it from that point. He knew that this was an opportunity for God to reveal his power. He saw it like an opportunity for God to demonstrate his power in that arena. But the army of Israel, they viewed it like any other war. They saw it like any other war that they fought and they won. But they did not look at it from God's point of view. God led David here for a reason. There is a reason that you are going through what you are going through. God always brings battles in your life to prepare you, not to delay you. It's you to take courage, take your stand where you are standing from. Because there is fear and there is faith. Where you draw your courage from is what determines whether you are going to win this battle or not. Because when Israelite army stood with fear, when they looked at this giant from fear, they retreated. But because David stood there with faith, he charged forward and he overcame. It is faith that always leads to victory. Faith is not always understood by people. People may misunderstand you. When David stepped forward with a sling, no one understood what he was doing. But he knew that it is not the sling which mattered at that moment. It is what he was carrying in him, not with him. What he was carrying was not necessary. But the armies expected him to come out armed with an armor. They expected him to come with a sword, like any other soldier. But David was not trained this way. God had trained him in another way. In that verse 34, David said to Saul, "Your servant has been keeping his father's sheep. When a lion or bear came and carried off a sheep from the flock, I went after it, struck it, and rescued the sheep from its mouth. When it turned on me, I seized it by its ear, struck it, and killed it. Your servant has killed both the lion and the bear. This uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has defied the armies of the living God. The Lord who rescued me from the paw of lion and the paw of bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Saul said to David, "Go, and the Lord be with you." God had already equipped David with what he wanted. This fight did not require a physical hammer, what everyone else expected. God had already built his confidence and faith in private. And this was the place where he was going to reveal it publicly. He was going to give him the public victory, to reveal what he had already been doing. Because him being in the field was not by mistake. Maybe everyone else saw it as a weakness. When he stood there before that Goliath, everyone else saw weakness in him. But God saw strength, great strength. Because standing there, by drawing that faith, expecting to win, but you don't know if you are going to win. But he trusted in God that he was going to win. And that is what we call faith. Taking that step forward when you don't know the full detail of where you are going. Just trusting the one holding your hand that you are going to step in the right place. David saw Goliath as an opportunity for God to demonstrate himself. When everyone else saw him as they saw them as an obstacle. Everyone viewed him as the one who is blocking their way to win this war. But they viewed that because they did not understand the will of God. They viewed it the wrong way from their point of view, from just the other wars that they have been fighting. But David was fighting in the field. He fought and he understood that this was the fight that came from God. And God is the one who was delivering these lions and bears in his hands. And here he took that step forward with faith, trusting that the same God is going to fight for him. The same God is going to deliver this Philistine into his hands. In verse 38, then Saul dressed David in his own tunic. He put a coat of armor on him and a bronze helmet on his head. David fastened on his sword over the tunic and tried walking around because he was not used to them. I cannot go in this, he said to Saul, because I'm not used to them. So he took them off. Then he took his staff in his hand, chose 5 smooth stones from the stream, put them in the pouch of his shepherd's bag, and with his sling in his hand approached the Philistine. Here, David did not go into the battlefield with his armor that was provided by the king. It was a good armor. It's not like it was a bad one, because remember it belonged to the king. But we are told that he said that he is not used to this. You know, we tend to fight our life battles by borrowed armors. If David could have walked in the field with his armor, maybe it would have slowed him down. But he refused because he understood this armor was not the armor that was required for this battle. We tend to fight our battles using other people's methods or identities. And that's where failure starts. When you start fighting using what you saw your friend fighting. Because when God brings a Goliath in your life, that Goliath comes with enough grace for you to face it. God is already equipped you to face your Goliath. That obstacle, that challenge that you think is too big for you to overcome, God has already equipped you to fight it. That calling, that faith, that gift that God has put in you, don't underestimate it, because if you surrender it to God, God works with what is surrendered to Him. If you surrender it to His hands, that is what He is going to use to overcome that Goliath in front of you. Remember, in Acts chapter 19, there are men who used the words that Paul used to deliver people. They used the same ones to try to deliver a man, to deliver those spirits from a man. And that man told them, we know Jesus Christ and we know Paul, but who are you? They try to fight using someone else's grace. You cannot take my faith and fight your battle. When they tried that, they were beaten by that man. We are told that they came out of that room without clothes. They were beaten because they tried to use someone else's faith. So when you were trying to fight, when you are fighting, not trying, because when that Goliath is in front of you, it is brought there for you to fight and win. When you are going against that Goliath, you have to use what God has equipped you with. Because those little battles that you are fighting, that is the preparation that God is giving you. Don't view them like obstacles. Don't view them like delay in your life. Because that is the preparation that God is giving you. take them to him, take them with you. Because with God, anything is possible. No giant is bigger in front of him. When you go with him, anything can fall. David walked in that battlefield he took a sling and a stone. That was a battle that was to be fought with swords and big hammers. But he took what God had skilled him with. He was skilled with that. God uses a vessel which is ready, which is skilled. Because if you take a knife and you are not used to that knife, you are going to be overcome, obvious. Because how do you use a knife that you don't know how to use? You have to use a skill that God has already equipped in you. Because God equips us uniquely. Everyone is equipped by its own way. Your Goliath is not my Goliath. So you fight your Goliath in a way that God has told you to fight. Because this faith also works through obedience. If you don't obey what God has told you, if you don't follow the way that God has told you to follow, if you disobey him, the faith is not going to work. Because if he tells you to follow a way and to take the route that you think is correct, there is no faith there. Because you don't trust him. You use what you thought is correct because you did not trust him. And faith is about trust. You take a step not knowing what you are going to step in. Abraham moved from his household. He did not ask God, who am I going to? Is there an uncle who lives where you are taking me? He did not think about what is ahead of him.